revealed how a black maid's daughter achieved the unthinkable with Millionaire's autistic twins. Maya stood at the intersection of her dreams and doubts, breathing in the exhaust-scented air of Atlanta's vibrant street. Would she become a beacon of change, or remain a shadow in the backdrop of wealth? Throughout her life, the disparities that shaped her identity loomed large, tightening their grip as she took on the challenge of caring for Jonah and Isaac, the twin sons of a billionaire family. With every sketch the boys made, she could sense a flicker of hope, a possible bridge to the world that often overlooked them. But the weight of their potential success pressed heavily on her chest. The upscale private school was not geared to embrace differences. It aimed to produce conformity among its polished students. Maya's heart raced as she recalled the terse conversations with the school's educators, their skeptical glances cutting deeper than she expected. The twins were struggling, outcasts in a world that prized elitism, and she was determined to uncover solutions where others had only found obstacles. Yet with every step forward, her pulse quickened. Who was she, a substitute teacher from humble beginnings, to claim she could change the narrative written for these boys? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Tension mounted as Maya poured herself into the arts-based program she envisioned for the twins, fueled by a determination to elevate their strengths and navigate the conflicts within their family dynamics. But just as things began to gel, a storm brewed on the horizon. Her former mentor, a once respected arts educator, publicly dismissed her methods, sowing seeds of doubt among the faculty and families alike. What could a maid's daughter possibly know about art education? The whispered judgments flooded her mind, wrapping around her spirit like a tightening noose. With her face heated in humiliation, doubt prowled her thoughts as she confronted feelings of inadequacy. How could she inspire the boys if she couldn't even stand against the voices that wanted to undermine her? Anxiety clawed at her insides, twisting her resolve into confusion. The hope she nurtured felt fragile. The mere thought of failure sent her heart racing. How could she shield Jonah and Isaac from the backlash while proving her worth? Fractured thoughts spun wildly. Could she abandon an initiative that promised to transform not only the boys' futures, but also her own? With every moment spent trying to uplift the twins, Maya felt torn apart. A surge of anger coursed through her veins, fueled by the injustices she witnessed every day. The world seemed poised at a precipice demanding she either rise or tumble into obscurity. In that critical instant, everything coalesced into a defining decision. Time stretched unbearably as doubt whispered in her ear, reminding her of the path laid out for those like her, the background she could never shake. And yet, as she caught the fleeting image of Jonah and Isaac's hopeful gaze, she felt a flicker of resolve spark within her. Could she wrest back control, transform the chorus of skepticism into a chorus of support? The challenge surged, and as the pressure mounted, the question echoed in her mind. Was she strong enough to confront a world bent on underestimating her ability to create change? Maya's resolve solidified like steel, hardening against the absurdities that peppered her path. Each twist of doubt and disdain from her former mentor became a ricochet off her newfound determination. She envisioned the twins' smiling faces, each line emanating the joy of creation, and realized she had to transcend the narrative that sought to diminish her. The next day, as she stood in front of the classroom, tensions high, Maya took a deep breath and embraced the weight of leadership. Unfolding a large roll of paper on the easel, she encouraged Jonah and Isaac to express their feelings through drawing. Each stroke of their pencils seemed like a quiet rebellion against the status quo. Their creativity unfolded like wildflowers, bright against the sterile backdrop of the school's polished facade. "Draw what makes you feel powerful," she instructed, her voice steady despite the uncertainty that loomed above her. Jonah, with abstract swirls of orange, depicted a roaring sun. Isaac chose blues and greens to illustrate a serene beach, an escape from the chaos of expectations. As she watched their spirits blossom, warmth surged within Maya, dispelling the shadows that clung to her past. This was more than a lesson in art. It was an affirmation of identity, a testament to their shared resilience. In the days that followed, the program drew attention. The twins' unique approaches to art sparked curiosity among their classmates, inviting a tentative admiration from those who previously shunned them. But despite these glimmers of progress, Maya felt the specter of opposition still hovering, waiting for an opportunity to strike. One afternoon, an influential board member of the school arrived unexpectedly for a visit. Maya felt her pulse quicken, but she steadied her breath. She couldn't allow fear to dim the light the boys had begun to shine. With Jonah skimming the edges of a new painting and Isaac meticulously blending colors, she felt they were all part of something monumental. Yet the board member's dismissive glance suggested he upheld the elitist traditions that Maya fought against. "What you aim to do here is admirable. But does it really fit within our curriculum?" he questioned, his tone disbelief wrapped in thinly veiled condescension. Maya's heart raced, fierce determination battling against the anxiety that gripped her. She saw in the board member's eyes not just dismissal, but an entire system designed to suffocate innovation in favor of conformity. It took all her courage to respond. "Art is not just an addition to our curriculum. It's essential for growth, especially for those who face challenges in communicating their emotions." His brows furrowed, surprise mingling with skepticism. She pressed on, a life raft in a tumultuous sea. Jonah and Isaac have brought their creativity into this space, and it has allowed them to express who they are, not who others want them to be. Isn't that worth something? Silence descended like thick fog, and Maya could feel the eyes of the twins watching her. She held her breath, anticipating rejection, yet hopeful for acceptance. After what felt like an eternity, the board member nodded slowly, almost as if he were weighing his own prejudices against the emerging truth she had unveiled. "Perhaps there is merit in your unconventional approach." A wave of sensation coursed through Maya, both relief and the edge of exhilaration. But as she lingered on that small victory, her thoughts twisted again. Would this be enough? Could one conversation turn the tide? The question gnawed at her, pushing her to consider her next move. Days passed, and Maya committed herself to building a community around creativity. The next step in ensuring the twins had advocates, not just for their art, but for their very existence. With each new drawing, each polished piece of work, she sensed the world around Jonah and Isaac shifting, yet internal doubt remained. What stood at the precipice of her evolving dream? The time had come to face not just the skepticism of others, but to confront her lingering fears that would not allow her to rest. Each day brought fresh challenges and another step closer to self-discovery. Would she have the strength to carry this vision through, or would her insecurities pull her back into the shadows? The path ahead demanded not only resilience, but a fierce clarity of purpose, an evolution of her own identity now intertwined with the hopes and dreams of two brilliant boys. Maya woke up each morning with a fire ignited deep within her. The moments she spent poring over Jonah and Isaac's drawings during class were not just about fostering their creativity. They provided clarity about her own purpose. Each sketch was a stroke in the larger portrait she was painting, a manifestation of her dreams and aspirations for the twins. but also her unyielding stance against the system that sought to marginalize voices like theirs. Yet amidst the budding light of hope, doubt still snaked through her resolve. She had made strides, but were they enough to change long-ingrained perceptions? The board members' tentative acceptance of her methods was just the beginning. Maya knew her fight had only just commenced. Determined to nurture their burgeoning talents and amplify their visibility, Maya devised a plan. She would curate an exhibit for Jonah and Isaac's artwork, showcasing their creative expressions and identities. It was an ambitious leap, perhaps too bold, but the possibility of presenting their work to the wider school community thrilled her. This was not merely about art. It was about establishing the twins as equal contributors, deserving of recognition and respect. As she began organizing the exhibit, fatigue clawed at her. Balancing teaching responsibilities with the logistics of the showcase weighed heavily. Would she truly be able to give this the attention it required? The whispers of self-doubt began to surface again, battling with her desire to break through the constraints placed on them. It was exhausting to rethink the societal restrictions that sought to confine them all. Yet as she scribbled notes and gathered materials, she could hear Jonah's and Isaac's laughter echoing in her mind. They were counting on her. Each day she sought their input. "What stories do you want to tell?" she asked, her excitement building. Jonah and Isaac, once hesitant, began to expand on their visions with newfound enthusiasm. With every brainstorm session, Maya felt the tension in her own chest release. Their creativity paved a path for her courage, illuminating her own insecurities. As the exhibit took shape, she witnessed their confidence blossom. Twins who once felt like outsiders now claimed their place in their own narratives. However, every step forward ignited the smoldering embers of skepticism from the administration. Rumors of the exhibit reached beyond the confines of her classroom. One afternoon, as she returned from lunch, she walked straight into Ms. Harris, the principal known for her stinging critiques. The woman's expression was stony, and Maya braced herself against a wave of unease. "Maya," Ms. Harris began, "there is concern about the direction you're taking. We have a reputation to uphold. This," she gestured dismissively towards the classroom, "is not where we place priority." Maya's pulse quickened, adrenaline surging through her veins as she fought against the urge to deflate under the weight of Ms. Harris's words. "With all due respect, we need to change the narrative. The boys deserve this opportunity just as much as anyone else," she shot back, her voice unwavering. The confrontation bore fruit in the form of silence, each woman measuring the other. Maya could feel the stakes rising. What was at risk here transcended the exhibit. It entwined with her identity, her belief in the power of expression. "What does art mean to you?" she challenged, her breath held on the edge of vulnerability and determination. Ms. Harris's brow furrowed, but Maya met her gaze with unyielding conviction. In the silence that stretched between them, a thought flickered in Maya's mind. Was she truly ready to stake her career on this? What if she failed? The confrontation elevated her anxiety, yet it also spurred her invigorated sense of purpose. The stakes seemed to rise and fall with the rhythm of her heart, but inertia was no longer acceptable. Each breath was a reminder that this was about more than her career. It was about propelling Jonah and Isaac into a realm where they belonged. As the exhibit day drew closer, tensions climbed. Could she execute her vision fully against the towering walls of dismissal? As she embarked on this odyssey, the question loomed large. What other truths about herself and her capacity for impact might emerge from this messy and beautiful process of creation? In the gathering storm of uncertainty, Maya prepared herself for the choices that lay ahead. Would the world open its doors to her intentions, or would it push back even harder? She inhaled deeply, steeling her resolve as the hour approached. Then came the sound of children's laughter ringing through the art-filled hallways, their innocent joy threatening to unravel the very systems that sought to encapsulate them. What awaited her on the other side of this moment was not merely an exhibit, but a pivotal confrontation with the limitations imposed by society itself. Would she emerge victorious, transformed, or would fear tether her? With a sense of impending clarity, she knew one truth as the day grew nearer. The moment of truth was about to arrive. Maya felt the weight of uncertainty pressing against her as the opening day of the exhibit approached. Every task completed was tinged with anxiety. Each preparation felt like a tightrope walk over a chasm filled with self-doubt. She envisioned the art displayed in the school's austere gallery, the twins' masterpieces eager to be seen, yet fears of rejection clouded her mind. What if their work was met with indifference? Amidst the whirlwind of logistics, she often found herself stealing glances at Jonah and Isaac's drawings, each piece a vibrant testament to their unique perspectives. It was amidst those images that her realization struck. The exhibition wasn't just a platform for the twins to showcase their art, but also a spotlight on her own struggle for recognition within a system that often failed to appreciate the depth of difference. As enthusiasm began splintering under the strain of external skepticism, asked her mother for advice. "You have always taught me to stand tall in the face of criticism," Maya reminded her quietly over breakfast. Her mother nodded knowingly, a subtle smile gracing her lips. "The hardest battles, my dear, are the ones where your heart is on the line. Trust yourself." Those words rekindled a flicker of purpose inside her, yet doubt shadowed every decision. Each step taken towards the exhibit felt monumental. The invitation sent, the walls prepped for display. Where would it all lead? Would it elevate Jonah and Isaac's voices, or drown them under the weight of institutional expectations? On the day before the exhibit, while working late into the evening, Maya set up the gallery space, surrounded by eager, albeit anxious, whispers of her students. As they hung the artwork, she turned to Jonah and Isaac, who were nervously inspecting their pieces. "This is your moment. Don't just stand behind them. View as an artist. Feel it," she urged them. After a long silence, Jonah's eyes sparkled with resolve. "How can we give up when we've come this far?" he said, determination blossoming across his features, while Isaac chimed in softly, "We're proud of what we made." It eased some weight off Maya's shoulders. Their confidence was infectious. Yet as the day sunk into night, shadows of doubt re-emerged. What if their work was buried under the authority of narrow perspectives? The boldness she witnessed in the boys was juxtaposed against her own lingering fears. With that realization, she caught herself slipping into old habits, questioning her worth and decisions. The following morning, an unexpected email from the administration landed in her inbox. "Maya, we need to discuss the exhibit. We believe it could reflect poorly on the school's standards." A familiar knot tightened in her stomach as the message resonated with the confrontation she'd had with Ms. Harris. Each word felt like a verdict on her choices. Panic twisted her thoughts into a frenzy. It dawned on her then. She wasn't merely fighting for the twins. Her battle was about representation, a relentless pursuit against the marginalization that plagued educational settings. How far was she willing to go to defend their rights to be seen and heard? With renewed determination, she replied, "I respectfully disagree, and I invite you to see the exhibit before making further judgments." The fight wasn't just for Jonah and Isaac. It was about carving out a space for authenticity in a world that demanded conformity. As exhibit day dawned, Maya held her breath. What if her drive led to a wall of resistance instead of celebration? The gallery buzzed with excitement, a bittersweet concoction of anticipation and anxiety bottled within her. Each student's joy sparked a flicker of hope that tempered her unease. Seeing the twins nervous but excited, she recognized the moment for what it could become. a testament to resilience and the journey towards visibility. All at once, the stakes felt disconcertingly high. Then, as she stood before the gallery doors, Maya knew the moment of truth had arrived. Would the world witness Jonah and Isaac as they truly were, or would they be relegated back into the shadows? The air hummed with implications, and as she flung the doors open, a single thought pounded within her chest. This was the transformative moment she had been waiting for. And then, standing before the gathered crowd, she realized that a decision loomed larger than the art itself. Would she defend the boys fiercely if the criticism came, or would self-doubt seep back in, threatening to silence not just their voices but her own? As Maya stepped into the gallery, the atmosphere thickened with anticipation. Bright colors from the artwork spilled vibrant life against the stark white walls, creating a visual dynamism that was almost palpable. Yet with every breath she took, the anxiety tightens its grip. She scanned the room filled with art enthusiasts, some familiar faces from the school, and a few skeptics from the administration, their expressions unreadable. Jonah and Isaac stood to her side, their hearts beating in sync with the fluttering excitement surrounding them. Each boy clutched a small stack of cards, artist statements they had painstakingly crafted, their words reflecting a lifetime of experience condensed into simple, powerful phrases. Maya felt proud. She believed in their ability to connect with the viewers, but a nagging question loomed. Could her own fears be their undoing? As guests began to filter in, Maya steeled herself. She approached the first group of attendees, introducing Jonah and Isaac and sharing the story behind their artwork. The boys shared their thoughts openly, their nervousness dissolving into passion with each spoken word. Seeing them articulate their vision was both empowering and humbling for Maya. In that moment, the tension bloomed into something beautiful. Unexpectedly, Ms. Harris entered the gallery, her presence radiating authority. Maya's throat tightened. What if her worst fears came to pass? What if Ms. Harris had come to deliver her anticipated verdict? She remained poised, a sharp contrast to the whirlwind inside her mind. However, her apprehension soon gave way to something undeniable. A spark ignited by the twins' authenticity. As the evening unfolded, Maya caught glimpses of reactions from the crowd. Some were skeptical, lingering longer on pieces that appeared less conventional. But others were drawn in by Jonah and Isaac's courage, engaging in lively discussions about the artistic choices made by the twins. Maya soaked in each interaction, understanding that the boys had an innate ability to convey emotions through their work that transcended the initial judgments. But when the moment of confrontation arrived, it was not Ms. Harris who raised her voice, but a member of the audience who dared to question the suitability of the exhibition. Why are we showcasing art from students who can't meet traditional standards? Is this really art, or just a sideshow? The words hit Maya like a physical blow. The room quieted, tension thickening around her. Jonah looked at Maya, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. Isaac's face pulled tight in worry. She had prepared herself to cushion the blow for the twins, but now it was a test of her commitment. Maya inhaled deeply, channels of thought firing rapidly within her. She recalled her mother's words about standing tall and the significance of fighting for what mattered. "Can't we appreciate art that challenges our definitions?" she countered, her voice steadied by newfound conviction. Art is not confined to a particular mold. It is a reflection of the artist's truth, and Jonah and Isaac embody non-conformity beautifully. The tension shifted. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd, though the skeptic remained unmoved. With the atmosphere crackling, realization washed over Maya. This wasn't just about the exhibit, nor solely about Jonah and Isaac. This represented a pivotal moment in her life, her own evolution into a fierce advocate for those whose voices were often silenced. As the exhibit continued to unfold, Maya found herself circulating, challenging any remaining detractors with passion instead of defensiveness. Each argument she articulated chipped away at her self-doubt, revealing a core strength she had buried beneath layers of insecurity. And as she caught a glimpse of Jonah and Isaac, now immersed in conversation with a captivated audience, Maya discerned a critical shift. They weren't merely the subjects of an exhibit, they were artists in their own right, enriched by their experiences and the courage of their truths. The moment crystallized for Maya. She realized the possibilities stretched far beyond this exhibit. Each step she took forward from here would require not just courage, but strategic thought and action. That night, amidst the chatter and excitement, Maya made a vow to herself. She would nurture this newfound resilience. The battle for representation was just beginning, and its implications rippled far beyond this gallery. But what Maya didn't know was that a new challenge lurked on the horizon, one that would push her limits even further and test the very foundation of her fading doubts in a world far less accepting. The stakes would rise higher than she could have ever imagined. As Maya exited the gallery, the weight of the evening slowly began to dissipate. The intoxicating highs of advocating for Jonah and Isaac resonated within her, but shadows of doubt still lurked in the corners of her mind. The confrontation had sparked something deep within her, a latent desire to not only advocate for others, but also to redefine her own understanding of what personal worth truly entailed. She walked home, the night air crisp against her skin, yet every step felt laden with the promise of potential. What had started as a supportive role had mushroomed into an authentic calling, one she couldn't ignore. This newly ignited fire within her forced Maya to rethink her own dreams and aspirations. She had spent years thinking of herself through the lens of other people's expectations. Now it was imperative that she craft her own vision, one where she was no longer a mere bystander. The next morning, Maya awoke with fresh determination. The sun poured through her window, illuminating the room as if signaling a new dawn. With clarity cutting through the mists of uncertainty, she decided she needed to draw a strategy that would truly utilize her newfound resolve. It hung over her, a brazen statement that she wasn't just a facilitator, she was an advocate for artists who pushed against the edges of conventionality. Maya sat journaling at her kitchen table, piecing together ideas for how to support Jonah and Isaac better. Each word morphed into a grounding presence. Each thought structured the foundation of her next steps. She envisioned workshops, spaces that nurtured voices that often felt muted. What if we created a platform? She mused aloud, excitement bubbling as she drafted plans for an after-school program that welcomed all students, regardless of skills, to explore their artistic identities. Later that week, Maya arranged a meeting with Ms. Harris. The notion was daunting, yet a sense of purpose bolstered her resolve. She rehearsed her points meticulously, crafting an argument that would not only champion the twins, but also position the program she envisioned as a transformative opportunity for students deemed non-conventional by educational standards. "Ms. Harris," Maya began, her voice bold yet respectful as she entered the sleek office. The walls lined with awards and degree certifications made her feel small, but she straightened her spine. "I propose we establish a program that supports our most creative students, the ones often sidelined simply because their expressions do not conform to mainstream expectations." Ms. Harris, initially skeptical, listened intently as Maya laid out her vision, how students could engage with art-making, discuss their narratives, and develop confidence. Each concept she presented punctured the walls of hesitation that hovered in the air. It dawned on Maya that she was no longer pleading for acknowledgement. Now she was asserting a necessity. "Perhaps I underestimated the impact of a more inclusive approach," Ms. Harris conceded after a pause, her brow furrowing as she considered Maya's initiative. "But how would this program be funded? Resources are limited." Maya's stomach twisted at the challenge, but she was undeterred. "I'm willing to research grants and even collaborate with local businesses. We can build a community here, one that showcases how art is a communal endeavor, feeding into the narrative of all students, regardless of their capabilities. Throughout the week, her momentum surged. Meetings with local businesses introduced Maya to people passionate about supporting the arts, and soon volunteers emerged from unexpected places. Parents, former artists, peers who believed in inclusivity. Then came another twist. A local news outlet picked up the unfolding story of the gallery exhibit. The headline was sensational, and Maya realized that the clarion call she had ignited was gaining traction. It was exhilarating, but a gnawing apprehension accompanied her success. Would she be able to keep up? The stakes were mounting, the spotlight brightening rapidly. Maya felt as if she was racing against the clock, and a surge of self-doubt threatened to undermine her progress. The very thought of failing those who had placed their trust in her terrified her. Yet amidst the chaos, one question arose, unexpected yet urgent. Would she be ready for the scrutiny that accompanied her aspiration? This thought lingered as she prepared for the next meeting with Ms. Harris, where she would need to address not only logistics but also confront the potential backlash from skeptics once again. The moment loomed heavy, and Maya wasn't sure if she could stand as firmly as she once had. Her strength danced on a knife's edge, ready to tip in either direction. Where the path would lead remained uncertain, but she felt an ominous wind of change at her back. Would she embrace the challenge to carve out her narrative despite the storm? As Maya prepared for her meeting with Ms. Harris, the room pulsed with a nervous energy she couldn't shake. The sensation was akin to standing on the precipice, the vast expanse of possibilities stretching beneath her like a chasm. How had she gone from simply facilitating to now standing as a potential catalyst for real change? The question taunted her, intertwining with an incessant voice that questioned her credentials, her capabilities, and whether she truly deserved a place in this transformative narrative. She had spent years chasing validation in various roles, student, assistant, artist's helper, but now she was thrust into an unfamiliar role of leadership, armed only with a growing ambition and a handful of supporters. Her reflections shifted as she meticulously adjusted her presentation for the meeting, writing down key points while suppressing the nagging reminders of her own insecurities. What if she faltered? What if Ms. Harris reverted to her old ways, shutting down her initiative before it even took flight? Stepping into the brightly lit office, the seasoned gaze of Ms. Harris dominated the space. Maya felt her heart pulse faster as she greeted her with a firm handshake. The tension in the air felt almost tangible, as if every breath taken within that small room could either lift her up or plunge her back into the shadows of anonymity she had fought to escape. Yet the resolve within her clenched like a fist, ready to break free. "Thank you for meeting with me again, Ms. Harris," Maya began, gauging the other woman's expression, searching for signs of skepticism or support. "I have refined our proposal and identified potential funding options to address the resource limitations we discussed." Maya laid out her plans methodically. She spoke of local businesses excited to partner, of community gardens that could host art shows, and of grants earmarked for educational innovation. With each word, she framed a narrative that was no longer just about the twins, but about the broader community of misfits, artists, and dreamers who needed a platform, a sanctuary to explore their identities and showcase their talents. Ms. Harris listened, eyebrows knitting together deep in thought. Her silence hung like a weight between them, swallowing Maya's energetic fervor and leaving a sense of dread creeping in. Doubt laced through her thoughts, whispering that perhaps she was being overly ambitious, that she was stepping outside her lane in a world that thrived on conformity. Then came the question that clenched her stomach. But Maya, some may not see the value in including students whose talents don't fit classic definitions of art. There was an underlying challenge in her tone, a reinforcement of the very barriers Maya sought to dismantle. Maya's mind raced. This could be the moment that defined her. Would she retreat into self-doubt or step forward with unwavering conviction? She leaned in, her voice steady. But isn't that exactly the point? Why shouldn't they feel empowered to create? Their experiences shape their art, and each one brings something unique to the table. Those voices deserve to be heard. The brief silence that followed felt electric, as if the air hummed with the weight of possibility. Ms. Harris studied Maya, her gaze no longer skeptical but contemplative, as if trying to reconcile her preconceived notions with this burgeoning vision. In that fleeting moment, Maya saw her future spiraling into something monumental, yet beneath it lurked the gnawing fear of not being enough, not being able to carry this vision through. An unexpected surge of clarity washed over her. She wasn't merely advocating for the twins anymore. She was expressing a truth she had just unearthed within herself. With a heart pounding from this realization, she spoke again. If we create a supportive space for these artists, we redefine success itself. As her conviction echoed around them, Maya sensed a shift. The tension between them was altering, revealing a path she had not anticipated. Ms. Harris leaned back, a flicker of anticipation gleaming in her eyes. Yet just as hope surged, a sudden realization dawned heavy on Maya. With the risk of making waves came inevitable scrutiny. What if this vision backfired? What if they faced criticism that threatened to unravel everything she was building? The sensations swirled as the weight of the challenge loomed ahead like a storm on the horizon. Would she possess the courage to navigate the turbulence and fend off the critics who questioned her capabilities? The urgency of that question clawed at her insides. With the possibility of monumental change dancing just out of reach, Maya knew that this meeting was not merely about resources. It was about finding her place in the narrative she was desperately trying to construct. What would the next move reveal? And could she withstand the backlash lurking around the corner? The moment was at hand, and with it, an inevitable confrontation loomed closer than ever. The lingering silence in Ms. Harris's office settled heavily on Maya's shoulders, the weight of expectation pressing down like a mantle. She could sense the shift, the potential for collaboration before her, yet doubt shadowed her heart. The question that echoed in her mind was not merely about convincing Ms. Harris anymore. It was about whether she could convince herself of her worthiness in this complex interplay of dreams and realities. Success can mean different things, Ms. Harris finally said, breaking the silence with a measured tone. What if this doesn't align with the traditional metrics of success we're used to? What will the board say? Maya's breath caught. It's not just about the metrics, Ms. Harris. It's about the impact. The words felt stronger as she uttered them, yet a voice within her retreated. Was she equipped to navigate the rigorous expectations of the board? She stood firm, determined to own her narrative. If we don't take risks and redefine success, we'll never unleash the true potential of our students. Ms. Harris's expression softened slightly, but uncertainty lingered. The conversation began to shift from merely discussing plans to an implicit challenge between them. Would they embrace this new vision, or bow to the pressures of the status quo? Maya's mind raced through strategies. What if she turned the narrative back to Ms. Harris? What was your experience with inclusion growing up? How did it shape your vision of art? The question flew from her lips, an attempt to connect, to reveal the humanity behind the professional facade they were both hiding behind. Ms. Harris leaned back, crossing her arms as she considered the question. A flicker in her eyes suggested recognition, perhaps even contemplation of her past, maybe of moments when she had felt marginalized, or when she had questioned the strict rules that suffocated creativity. Before Ms. Harris could respond, Maya launched into another thought, her heart racing. Art should push boundaries. We need to support the unorthodox thinkers among us. It could be the very thing that propels us forward. What if we fail? There was a vulnerability in Miss Harris's voice that resonated with Maya and matched her own internal struggles. The tension shifted, taking on a tone of earnestness. Here was a pivotal moment, a chance to connect on a deeply personal level. "But what if we succeed?" Maya countered, the fire of her conviction igniting with every word. "We have to take the leap. If we play it safe, we'll only be stuck in this cycle of mediocrity. We're here to change lives, not just manage them." The words hung in the air, full of promise and defiance. Maya sensed the shift, a locking in of collective resolve, but beneath that stood the dread of impending criticism. After all, change is often unwelcome. Maya's mind whirred with possibilities. What could she do next? What resources could she gather to support her bold plans? A fear of the unknown clawed at her, but doubt transformed into determination as she envisioned her next steps. She needed to rally her supporters, to strategize, and to prepare for inevitable resistance. But internally she curdled with a new fear. How would she respond when confronted? How could she maintain her narrative in the face of skepticism? Suddenly, the stakes elevated even higher. The mirrors of self-doubt reflected the vulnerabilities she had long been trying to mask. Could she truly embody the change she wished to see? Every avenue of her thoughts converged on the question, what if she faltered under pressure and their support unraveled? As she stood to leave the meeting, a sense of resolve replaced some of her anxiety. They had laid a foundation of potential, but the real battle was just beginning. The next move was crucial, not just for this initiative, but for her own evolution as a leader. The meeting may have ended, but her journey was only gaining momentum. What awaited her next was an upcoming critical confrontation, a public presentation before the very board that Ms. Harris seemed to fear. This moment could either solidify or dismantle her aspirations. Where would her courage lead her? As she stepped out of the office, the air felt electric, charged with the weight of possibility. The time had come to face the unfiltered truth of her ambition and its ramifications. Maya left Ms. Harris's office, her mind racing with possibilities and uncertainties. The corridor felt too bright, too sterile, contrasting sharply with the tumult of thoughts swirling inside her. She pressed her palms against the wall momentarily, grounding herself. The follow-up presentation loomed on the horizon, and she felt both exhilarated and terrified at the prospect. As she strolled toward her desk, she weighed her options. Preparation was crucial, not just to defend her ideas, but to showcase her vision authentically. She pulled out her notebook, pages still fresh and inviting. It was time to transform ideas into actionable plans. Maya scribbled key points, fostering creativity, redefining success, and democratizing access to art. Each word fueled her passion, but doubts crept in. Were these plans just ambitions, easily crushed beneath the weight of traditional expectations? "Where do I start?" she muttered under her breath. Her phone chimed, pulling her from her reverie. A text from Lucia, her closest ally and fellow educator, brightened her screen. "Want to brainstorm together? I have thoughts brewing about your presentation." Maya's heart lifted. Lucia had a knack for inspiring those around her, often pushing them to think beyond their own limitations. "I'm in," Maya replied, already plotting their meeting down to the cafe, where they often exchanged ideas over steaming cups of coffee. When they met, Lucia's enthusiasm was palpable. "So what's your hook? You need to grab them right from the start," she encouraged, leaning forward with genuine interest. Maya blinked, the spark of an idea forming. "What if I opened with a story?" she suggested, recalling her own experiences of feeling invisible, growing up in an academically rigorous environment. "Something personal that ties into our mission, integrating marginalized voices in art." "You mean like your own?" Lucia guessed, eyes lighting up with recognition. Maya hesitated. The thought was both liberating and intimidating. Was she ready to expose that part of herself? Her narrative had always been hers alone, a sensitive examination of identity and ambition. Yes, she finally admitted, but it's terrifying to speak about my past in that context. It's relatable. It humanizes you, Lucia insisted, and it shows your commitment to inclusivity. This is your chance, Maya. Don't hold back. Empowered by Lucia's words, Maya spent the next hours developing her presentation. She envisioned illuminating slides that intersected the personal with the professional, crafting a story that highlighted both her vulnerabilities and her aspirations. This blend would allow her to guide others through each point, leading them to grasp the deeper implications of her vision. Yet as the clock ticked loudly toward presentation day, another wave of doubt crashed in. Could her personal story really resonate with board members who had long adhered to conventional measures of success? Would her narrative be seen as an example of resilience or a story of emotional excess? With her heart pounding, she faced herself in the mirror, the question brewing inside her. Could she allow the world to see the complexities of her journey? It was vital she did, for she was no stranger to overcoming obstacles. She had always leveraged her story as a source of strength. Raising her chin, she practiced her opening lines, allowing her voice to carry the weight of her experiences. Today, I stand not just as an educator, but as a reflection of the very change I wish to implement. As she rehearsed, the thought emerged. Vulnerability could be her greatest weapon. This revelation sparked a renewed determination, yet the tension between her fears and her ambitions surged within her. She felt the need to confront not only the board, but her own internal barriers. The day of the presentation dawned, an amalgamation of excitement and dread. Each breath felt charged. Maya arrived with a sense of purpose. She was ready to expose her truth and possibly face the greatest challenge of her professional life. As she walked to the podium, anticipation crackled through her body. Would courage anchor her, or would self-doubt destabilize everything? The moment felt monumental. This was more than a presentation. It was a defining moment of her professional evolution. What awaited her in that room could alter not only her career, but the trajectory of the very institution she sought to transform. As she stepped into the spotlight, one unyielding thought filled her mind. This was her moment to shine or fade, and she had every intention of shining. As Maya stepped confidently onto the platform, the room buzzed with the hum of anticipation. She scanned the faces of the board members, including Ms. Harris, who sat rigidly, her expression unreadable. The moment of confrontation was here, and Maya clutched the remote for her slideshow, feeling the weight of her journey pressing against her heart. "Thank you for the opportunity to present today," she began, her voice steady, yet infused with the urgency of her mission. "I stand before you not just as an educator, but as someone who has experienced the complexities of being seen and unheard." The murmurs faded into silence as she shared her story. She recounted the days of feeling invisible, the shadows of doubt that loomed over her youth. Each memory spoke to the importance of acknowledging divergent voices within the arts. With every word, she felt the chains of her insecurity fall away, replaced by a resolute sense of purpose. "Art has the power to connect," she emphasized, her voice rising with passion. "It is a universal language, often bypassed in our traditional notions of success." Jonah and Isaac represent not only talent, but the beauty that emerges from embracing uniqueness. She shared insights from the previous exhibit, showcasing how the boys' creativity had fostered compassion and curiosity among their peers. Just as Maya felt momentum building, Ms. Harris interjected, her voice laced with skepticism. Your personal experience is compelling, Maya, but what about the practicality? Do we risk undermining established educational standards for these unorthodox approaches? Maya's pulse quickened, but this time fear didn't topple her resolve. Ms. Harris, our current standards have not provided a holistic education for every student. We foster excellence, yes, but we must also nurture the individual. The unorthodox allows for personal exploration and authentic self-expression, which is essential in today's multifaceted world. The air thickened with tension as board members exchanged glances. Their demeanor had shifted slightly. Perhaps they recognized the fervor behind her words. With measured breaths, Maya continued. Our program could not just include student artwork, but also establish workshops where every student, regardless of their abilities, could express themselves. Imagine an inclusive environment where every child feels valued. She outlined funding strategies, partnerships with local businesses, and a community that could emerge from elevating all voices. As she spoke, Maya felt something extraordinary, a strong sense of recognition. For the first time, she connected her past struggles with her present ambitions, the two converging into a powerful narrative that was all her own. This was about amplification, not just for Jonah and Isaac, but for every child who faced being dismissed in a world that glorified conformity. Finally, Maya reached the crescendo of her presentation. She connected her personal journey to the mission at hand, drawing parallels between vulnerability and the strength it yielded. Creating art is about forging connections. If we can arm ourselves with empathy and creativity, we can better prepare our students for the world. As her final words hung in the air, she awaited their response. The board members sat in contemplative silence, a landscape of unreadable expressions. Moments stretched painfully, her heart pounding with uncertainty. Had she done enough? Then a wave of applause rippled through the audience, echoing in Maya's ears. The clapping grew louder as she realized it was not just the board applauding her remarks, but those in attendance, parents, fellow educators, students who understood the transformative essence of connection within art. Maya's breath hitched, her chest swelling with pride. In this moment she comprehended the magnitude of her journey. She had not only advocated for Jonah and Isaac, but had carved out a space in which her own voice resonated loudly. Afterward, as the board deliberated, Maya stepped outside the conference room, feeling lighter, empowered. Eventually, the doors opened, and Ms. Harris emerged. Her demeanor shifted. "Maya," she said, her voice softer, "you've opened my eyes to the possibility of our program." It wasn't just nods of acceptance that Maya received. It was validation, acknowledgement, and the beginnings of fostering change that had long been overdue. Days afterward, as the program gained traction, Maya reveled in the fervor of community creativity. Jonah and Isaac thrived in their newfound roles, participants and leaders within the school's art initiatives. Maya realized her evolution lay in redefining not just the story for the boys, but also reshaping her destiny. It was about recognizing her own power, her worth, and embracing her place in challenging the status quo. As she strolled through the school halls, artwork on display celebrated the voices that had once been silenced. Each piece was a testament to resilience, skill, and the fight against marginalization. Past the exhibits, she ventured forth with a clear vision, to empower every artist, every child, to step boldly into their narrative. Maya had not only proven her worth, she had become a beacon of hope, validating her dreams through advocacy, artistry, and unyielding determination. In that vast, bustling school, she had achieved what she had once deemed unattainable, a transformative path paved through incorporation and acceptance. Her heart swelled with a sense of culmination and resolve. This was her moment of triumph. Now this is your moment. You need to subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support our creative community. Don't wait even one more second to share this life-changing journey with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending because your voice matters in amplifying these stories.